Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. This is once again the most important thing that the board needs to do this year, so I appreciate everybody's commitment and support. Thank you. Okay. Can you hear us, Louise?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is there anything else you need to do, board chair?
No, thank you. You're on.
Okay. I'm just going to be quick. I just wanted to make sure that you all knew the names of the representatives from Anthem. Some of you got to meet them earlier, but we have Michael Ballou and Scott Wilson here. They are going to be leading this meeting to give you all an update and a preview of what the search looks like, and also to talk to you specifically about also your thoughts about what you're looking for in the next chancellor for Pima Community College. So I'm going to pass it over to them. And as Teresa said, they run a tight ship. So
right.
Over to you.
Thanks,
well,
Tina.
thank you. We are very excited about the opportunity to bring you great candidates for your next chancellor. Would like to kind of start off, I think, with talking a little bit about the timeline, just to give you a high-level overview of that, and then we can go into some of the other information that we'd like to get from you ladies and gentlemen today. We have worked with Tina and David and Jeff to put together a timeline, looking at what we understand that you want as the Board of Governors, and your hope that a candidate can be picked by the summertime. So this is the time frame that is best going to support that. We just to bring you up to speed, we have met with the search committee. We have also been on site for meetings. We had some very good meetings with constituent groups. Very impressed with those individuals and their commitment to the college and this process. Was able to gather some really good information to put together our profile for the next chancellor. And I'll talk a few minutes about kind of what we'd like to get from you to assist with that profile. We are in that kind of still evaluation process of all the data that we've gathered. There was an online survey that we that Tina and her group put out and made available for individuals at the university who are not able to attend the meetings. We had 195 people who responded to that survey, and we're still going through some of that, but it looks like everything that was put in there as far as comments, thoughts, and so forth. Maria, go ahead.
You said university people. Were you?
I'm sorry, college. Yeah. Okay. Yep, college.
We were just at a university yesterday, Maria.
Right. We've been there all week. The words get crossed, so just forgive me on that. So we had 195 people who responded. Their information is going along very well with what we heard in the other groups, so no surprises from what we have seen there. The next step in the process will be to put together and finalize with the search committee the search prospectus document that we will use for marketing. We're looking at having that completed sometime within the next couple of weeks. And then we will spend our time out marketing to the national candidate audience. And we are looking at May the 3rd to present candidates to the search committee for them to start reviewing. We will be back on site on May the 10th to meet in person with the committee to go through the candidates, narrow down and evaluate individuals for a video interview session with those individual candidates. And then we will hold the video interviews on May the 27th. There'll be either the day before, the day after as well. We usually do 2-day sessions with those. And then from those, they will select the individuals that they would like to recommend to be brought on site for on-site interviews. And those on-site interviews are scheduled for between June the 3rd and June the 14th. That gives the selection of the candidate, development of the contract, starting the onboarding process with a target date of June the 14th. So any questions on that or additions, David or Tina, to that you'd like to add?
Maria, go ahead.
I had a question. You said that you met with a committee, with committee members. Were those were there outside committees like from the community, or were they just internal from the college?
We met with the search committee. We met with faculty groups, staff groups. We met with the group that will report directly, the staff that report directly to the chancellor. We had an open forum for community members to join as well too, that we did by Zoom.
Did they
And then,
meet?
I'm
Excuse
sorry.
me. Did they come?
We had a few people on that Zoom. It was not well attended, but that's not unusual. That's the reason we do the online survey as well too. So it gives anyone who is not able to come to one of those meetings an opportunity to complete a survey. And if you'll give me just a second, I will tell you how many we did. All right. So on the survey, out of the 195 individuals that responded, we had 35 community members that responded. In addition to the others, we had 33 faculty, 70 staff, 37 students, 11 administrative individuals, the 35 community members, and then 12 individuals who stated other. And when we look at, who those others are, a lot of those individuals could really fall under community members. They were alumni and, others that we really could put under that category as well.
Michael, will you be sharing those comments with us? So, if we have our constituents call and say, hey, well, I made this comment, we'll be cognizant of what they contributed so we don't sound like we're unaware.
Absolutely. I can share those.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, the one question that I had, how much notice did you give the community to let them know that there was going to be a meeting? Because the reason I'm asking that question is when I got it, it was really quick. I mean,
Yeah.
So.
It was quick. I think the notice went out while we were on site doing those meetings. So they had Tina, originally like 3 or 4 days to complete the survey, and then we actually extended it. It was supposed to conclude at I think 10:30 or 10:45 your time on Friday evening, and we extended that until the same time on Monday. So we gave them over the weekend to respond as well.
Okay, so let me just ask, how did you advertise outside of the college, or was it all just online?
Phil Burdick and his team sent out messages like through the website and social media in order to advertise the community forum piece, as well as when we were in the community forum, I then shared the survey link to everybody that was there. And then we extended the survey link at request for people to further send out into the community, which is probably why we got the larger numbers. So yes, it was a little quick, but they started advertising on social media and the website the week before Anthem came out. So we tried to give as much notice as possible.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And Maria, I'm not 100% sure about the entirety of the list, but when I saw Phil Burdick's email that went out, there were people like Tim Steller from the Arizona Daily Star, so there were quite a few people like that I saw on the email list, just emails that I recognized.
So did it go out also to the news, to the TV stations?
I don't think so. No, I mean, I don't know all of the emails that it went out to, but I think they reached out to the people who normally communicate with the college. I think the people that like to have us hear from them. I think that communication was sent to them also from Phil Burdick's office. Okay, let's move. We're going to move on, Maria, just because we have a
Okay.
wait.
I have seen search efforts in the past lose top candidates because of leaks from the committee.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if we've made it clear to the committee that Arizona law forbids them to leak information through this search process. And it could be, if leaked, it could be, there could be punitive efforts by the Attorney General's office. So have we told them that they're in executive session pursuant to state law and they're by law not allowed to leak any information on these candidates? Because if the word gets out that we're leaking information, we'll lose candidates.
We concur.
Yeah, we do. And we had a lengthy conversation with them about confidentiality. We did not discuss the potential punitive damages, but we will have an opportunity to do that again. We'll be meeting with the committee again very soon.
And Michael, didn't you also say that we'll all be signing a non-disclosure statement in that meeting, the last
Absolutely.
meeting we were in? Yeah, so
Right.
I think Wade's got a good point. Let's just mention to him once again that they
Yep.
can be held for punitive damages if they're not
Okay.
playing the part.
All right.
Thank you.
And Tina, we need to make sure we include that in the written, in the document as well too. Yeah.
I have a timeline question for you, Michael. Sorry,
Okay.
going back to what you were saying before. When you said that at the end of May, there'd be virtual and then interviews, and then in that first 2 weeks of June, there would be in-person ones. You're talking about the search committee, right? That's who's doing the interviewing at that point? Or I'm trying to figure out, like, when does the board come in? Like, when does
Right.
it transfer over?
Right. The search committee will do those video interviews. And then when the search committee does it, well, first of all, they'll review candidates. They'll narrow down the candidates to a list that they want to do video interviews with. Typically, just for example, last chancellor search that we did, there were 23 candidates. They narrowed it down to 10 because that's 2 days worth of interviews. That's, 2 full days. And then from those 10, they will likely narrow down to probably 4 with maybe an alternate that they would recommend to the board to be brought on site for interviews. And then the on-site interviews and how the board fits in with all of that, we'll work with Tina and her group to figure all of that out.
Okay, so sorry, I just want to make sure I'm understanding you. So the virtual interviews are done by the search committee. The
Right.
in-person interviews are done by the board. Is that what I just heard or no?
We do that. Tina, do we know exactly how those on-site interviews are going to work yet? As far as on campus, including the board, or?
Yes, the board will be included in that. Yeah. So it'll be the committee and the board for those on-site interviews. Just FYI, I'm not sure, Michael and Scott, if you know, but last night in our board meeting, we voted that myself and Wade McLean, the chair and the vice chair, will also be part of the search committee.
Okay.
So there will be some board understanding. And of course, if we need to share any of those topics, I guess we'll be sharing them only in exec session of our exec session. Is that correct? Or
so just some of this work will be in exec session, some will be open, right? So because
no, I'm saying that if all of the committee work is considered exec
Right,
session, you can't share.
yes, but what I'm saying is not all the committee work is exec session, right? So the discussion of the timeline, there's nothing confidential about that. What is going to happen in exec session will be any conversations about the applications, the candidates, like what questions we're going to ask them if we don't want them to know until all that you don't want people outside of the search immediate sphere to know will be exec session.
And so none of that we can share.
Correct.
Okay, I understand now.
So like when they elect the chair of the committee, that's an open meeting, right? There's no secret about that. But the detailed work about candidates and details of the search process that you don't want candidates to know in advance, that will all happen in exec session so we don't compromise the integrity of the process.
Okay, so sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, and I apologize if I'm missing something here. But like in my head, at some point, there's a handoff from the search committee to the board. Like the search committee's done, and then the board takes over the last part of that hiring process. When does that handoff happen, or is it running in parallel?
I think it will happen at the on-site interviews.
Okay, so those
The committee will still be there, right? Because they'll be telling us, what they learned, what they gleaned from their visits and, whatever happened. But from that point on, the board will be involved. And then basically, as soon as that is done, I think the committee is also done, right? Because after that point, everything is going to be done by the board.
Right.
Yes. So so the on-site interviews are the point where the search committee basically says, we interviewed these 10 people, we recommend these 4, to go forward to on-site interviews. And the on-site interviews will be a combination of exactly what Teresa's talking about, board, interviews, as well as an opportunity for the rest of the college to meet these candidates. So then you as a board can take some of that feedback into consideration, as well as your own feedback to help you make a college-wide decision. So yes, at that point, the search committee would be like, this is what we've all learned, and these are the candidates, and here's why we're recommending these candidates to you. And then Greg, that would be like kind of the pass off. And then at that point, you all would take over still, with the help and support of me and Dave and Jeff, just as far as the coordination process goes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That makes sense to me. And just a quick favor, if we could lock down exactly what days those are, I want to make sure that I'm holding them so I can be involved. But I'm already booking business travel for my day job in May and June right now. So if I need to hold dates, I need to know that soon, within the next few days, about which dates I have to hold.
Yeah, so we're after this meeting, Michael and Scott and I are going to try to do exactly what you're talking about, outline in more specific dates that then we can put out for holds. So we just had to kind of tell you all the timeline, make sure you were yes, and then we can kind of move forward with it, because I also need to know what the date holds are, as well as telling the search committee. So yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on to our next topic here, keeping us flowing. In our meetings with the constituent groups, we asked them to talk with us about some traits and characteristics that they felt like were needed in the next successful chancellor. We also talked about some challenges that they may face from the perspective of those constituency groups. We talked about what the college would look like 12 months, 18 months from now under the leadership of the new chancellor, as well as what would let them know that the chancellor had been successful in the job. And we talked about some key attractors to the role that we could use from a marketing perspective. There certainly were some trends among the groups. There was nothing that really stood out among the different groups as far as traits or characteristics are concerned that concerned us, or that were really different than what we hear, basically from other searches that we do. They're looking for someone certainly who's a good leader, who listens, who's collegial, who is very student focused, who gets out into sees the community both internally and externally. And those types of traits that we're looking for. We would like to hear from this group, however, exactly what you're looking for, because you're going to be the final decision makers. And their issues such as, from a requirements perspective, are you looking for someone who is just from the higher education specter? Are you looking for someone, are you open to someone with who's a more non-traditional candidate who may be coming from, for example, the business world with some connection to higher education? We very, very clearly heard from all of the constituent groups that we met with, except for the community. We didn't get into that with the community, but certainly from the staff perspective, the faculty perspective, they want someone from higher education, and that is always the case when we talk to those groups. However, we need to know from a committee standpoint, as we continue to provide the charge to the committee, exactly what you're looking for in an individual. So we'd like to hear requirements. Your thoughts on that, as well as, some traits and characteristics that you feel like we need to be looking for in your next chancellor that's going to work well with you as the board. So we'll just open it up to you to throw out things to us, and then we'll ask a few further questions as we proceed.
So I know that we're not allowed to, say we want somebody under 45. So,
Right.
but we do need somebody who has vitality and innovation and energy, right? We don't want someone who isn't going to feel like they have, this amazing opportunity ahead of them and they can, just make the world a better place, right? So we need somebody energetic, full of vitality. It's very important for me to have somebody who believes in shared governance and has actually practiced that craft and that art. I've been an educator my whole life for over 35 years, and I do believe it's important to have experience teaching at some level, but I don't necessarily think that we have to have somebody from higher ed as long as they have experience and have all the other characteristics and qualities that we need. But I would like them to have had teaching experience at the community college level or the university. I mean, there are a lot of professionals who have done that at our college, right? I mean, it used to be required of our administrators to teach one class every 2 years, one semester class every 2 years. I think that's gone by the wayside, but I think that was really important because if people don't understand education from the practical point, they understand it from that observed apprenticeship. Right? They did 12 or 20 years in education and they saw how teachers did stuff. So they know what education is about. And that's just a false statement, right? I've gone to dentists my whole life, but I don't know what dentists do. So I think that is important. Okay, I'll let someone else share. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking for a proven leader and without any specific background boxes. I mean, if we get an applicant that was the CEO at General Mills, that ran an effective organization and understood that they needed to pay the stockholders a certain amount of money every year to be successful, and that they had a product line that was marketable, then that's okay with me.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk. I'm sorry, go ahead, Greg.
No, Maria, go ahead. I'll go after you. Please go.
Okay. I'm in line with Wade in that I think that a CEO and somebody that's worked in the business community, somebody that has proven that they work well with people and it's not a dictatorship. The one thing that I would hope that we wouldn't do is to hire an attorney. Okay, I'm sorry. It's really important, I think with shared governance, it's just that their training is a little bit different than in education or within a business community. I would like to see somebody that can hold people accountable and that his main focus is the college and the people that work in the college and the community and not self-interest. So that's
we heard that exact thing a lot from our groups, from all of our groups, the accountability and the self-interest piece. So that, all that you're saying goes along well with what the other groups have given us, which is good.
And there's always, I would say almost uniformly across the country, but it was really highlighted in our meetings there, a need for more transparency and more communication, right? I mean, we always hear those two things. You can count on. But it was really emphasized in our meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably three things that come to mind for me, and some of these are traits and some of them are just kind of knowledge. But I mean, I agree that in my perspective with, you know, what Wade had said and Maria was saying, I don't have any specific background requirements in my mind. You know, I would really just be looking for someone who has a proven track record of leading large, complex organizations, whether that was a institute of higher ed or whether it was, you know, large business. I'm not, or a large community organization. Like I'm not specific in that, but they need to have a history of driving clear outcomes, and being able to successfully lead a large, complex organization. You know, the second thing that comes to mind is I think it's going to be very important to me that our candidate understands the importance of Pima's designation as a Hispanic serving institution and what that means in historical context, that it's not just that we have a lot of Hispanic students, but what Pima College has meant for access to higher ed for Tucson's Hispanic community, especially during times when there wasn't as much access through the U of A and other institutions. And so the cultural and historical context of what Pima has meant to this community at large, but also to the Hispanic community here, there needs to be a recognition of that and an understanding of that continued role and the historical place the college has been. And then the third piece for me is I think it's critical that this candidate understands the role that community colleges play and are needing to play in workforce development. So, you know, an ability to work with local businesses to identify workforce needs and then develop, you know, programs to meet those needs. We certainly learned, or was highlighted for us in DC when we were at the ACCT conference, about how important that is nationally in terms of where community colleges need to be. And so it's of great importance to me that whoever our future chancellor would be, either recognizes that or has experience in doing that in terms of those sorts of programs.
Mhm. Yeah, let me address workforce development a second. Just, you know, thinking about what we heard from our meetings as well too. Workforce development is definitely, as you said, important, and this person needs to, you know, they're going to have to continue to do that. That's going to be a big initiative. We got the feeling from the other groups that your previous chancellor focused pretty much on workforce development and not much else. There is a really big feel from your faculty groups, your staff groups, your student groups that you need to focus on. There needs to be a balance between focusing on workforce development and the academic portion of the college as well. Do you agree? Does the board agree with that?
And just to supplement Michael's statement, it doesn't need to be a 50-50 balance. Nobody suggested, right? However, there needed to be some elemental recognition of what the academic mission and purpose was of the community college. So just something to think about, Greg.
Yeah, I agree that we have to do both. I mean, I think in fairness, probably our workforce programs were pretty far behind, and there's been a lot of effort to bring them up over the last few years. I think we have an odd internal tension where people feel like one has to be done at the expense of the other, and I don't think it's a zero sum like that. Like I think we can do all of those things. And when I was talking about, you know, the importance of access to higher ed and our Hispanic serving institution, you know, our role as a transfer institution to the U of A that gives greater access to 4-year degrees, I put all that under that heading. And so yes, I mean, I think both have to be important parts of what we do. But I also know, just for me personally, that workforce development programs are really important to me. And so I don't want to lose the momentum that we've had, but also acknowledge we need to do both.
I think the person needs to be able to articulate his commitment to internal and external constituencies, and explain why the college does what the college does. And it's one thing to make a comment like that at a board meeting, but I truly believe that in the first couple of years, this college needs to have somebody that stays at home, that is involved in campus life at every single campus, and shows a positive interaction with students and faculty and staff to show that there is an emphasis on what happens inside the college. And then at the same time, understands the pressures the college is under from external constituents, business community, and be able to articulate their vision of a balance. And my personal opinion is, I don't know how a trip to Chicago to meet with other community college chancellors and presidents early on does us any good when we have such a need to have somebody here. And so I'm looking for somebody that can understand the community of Tucson, the faculty and staff and the students of the college, and also the external workforce development people that really truly need Pima College to meet their needs and see the college as a workforce innovator. And I think that can be done with the right person, but they need finesse, they need a vision, and they need to be very visible inside the college.
Yeah, I that totally agree. From your student perspective, you know, and looking back at or thinking back at comments that were made by students, you know, student life is very important to them. Now, I know there are a lot of individuals that are online, but you know, I think there is a feeling that the students who are actually on campus have been forgotten about in many ways. The chancellor was not out meeting the students, not out, you know, seeing. There was really nothing going on from a campus life perspective to pull the students in. You know, one individual made the comment, we just walk around on campus and kind of look at each other because nobody knows each other. You know, let's have some cookouts, or let's have a band come in, or let's have something from time to time to give some life to campus so we can get together and get to know each other. So there's some very simple fixes, you know, from a recruiting standpoint. Campus life is something that even if whether you're going to be, you know, even your online students, I think they're looking for some type of connection these days to their college. So I think that is going to be something that's going to be very important for your new chancellor to focus on.
I'm going to give Luis an opportunity to share your thoughts, Luis.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My feeling is that I heard a lot of good comments, but one of the comments that I did like was the transparency, but also knowing the community. But other than that, I think it's very critical and it's imperative that whoever we hire listens, that's a commonality that was shared over and over. We need an individual that's, as mentioned a while ago, as a proven leader, but also an effective leader. By the effective leader, I mean that he needs to listen. And I agree with Mr. Wade in reference to being out there in the community. But also, it's a very, very important, as we know that Pima is a Hispanic servant institution, that we need to bring the people to us again. But also, in turn, one of the things that I've said before, and I'm willing to make it a commitment again, that we also, as a board member, along with the new chancellor, be out in the community. Let's have our meetings in the community. That's one of is one of the biggest requests that from day one, but we have not. It's been 5 years now, but we have not done that yet. For whatever reason, they say, well, it's impossible to do. It's a lot of this and that and that and this, but I don't think it's impossible. After doing almost 3 years with COVID, nothing is impossible anymore. But that's one of the things that I really believe that for us as board members and whoever the 3 others will be coming in, and hopefully 2 of us will come in a new one, that we need to be out there in the community. As was mentioned a while ago, there's a lot of people that that do not know, or they would like to know us in reference to being out there in the community. But that's one of the biggest things that my focus is, and I would like to see not only the students but also the parents, because the parents play a very critical role in encouraging and promoting and also supporting reference to their children and young adults to continue on with their educational pathway, be it through academia and to the transition into the U of A, but also to the workforce development as well too. But those are the things that I want to see, is whoever we hire, be listening to the people, not only to students alone, the community, but also to staff and faculty as well.
Great.
Because those are the areas that we need to focus, and an individual that has to be a listener and a go-getter. Thank you.
Thanks, Luis. Okay, Maria, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that, I would hope that the new chancellor, whoever it is, understands the community. And by that, I mean that they understand the poverty levels of our community, that they understand the educational levels of our community and what those needs are, because, we have a really low graduation rate, and it's critical for our economy, and also in providing, the classes that are needed, that they totally understand what's out there, what the challenges are in the community. And in that way that hopefully we'll be able to increase our enrollment.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
That's another thing that's really important for me, is that we increase enrollment. I don't think focus has been put on that for a long time. Some other things, we need to make sure that whoever we hire knows how to work well with a board. That there's this give and take relationship. There's this respect and responsibility. We're a volunteer board, which is different than business boards where the boards are paid, right? So when you waste our time by giving us inaccurate information, when the administration or CEO gives us inaccurate information, not only is it disrespectful, but it's also an abuse of our already giving this service for free. So I really expect the person who comes in to have a good working relationship and understands how to what's that word, when you can use the board and make them better and make it work better instead of just wasting their time. So that's another thing. Unions are important to me. Not necessarily everybody on the board feels that way, but I definitely don't think any of us want somebody who is anti-union, because unions are what makes America great, and we don't want to lose those people's skills. You don't think
They
that?
make America great.
They do. All the laws that we've got, because children can't work anymore if they're 12 years old. That was all because of unions. Labor Days because of unions. And then one other thing is, when I joined a year ago, the motto of this college seemed to be that we're doing the best we can, because this book says there are these 5 great upheavals. And since these upheavals are happening, we can never improve enrollment. We can never do anything better, because the birth dearth. I don't want to hear any of that negativity. So anybody who believes primarily in that great upheaval book, they're going to, I want somebody who can recognize that there are situations in the community, but here's what we're going to do to go above and beyond that negative input.
Okay.
Wade McLean's going to speak here real quick.
I would like to hear what the candidates say is their belief structure and how they fit into the political arena, both at the state, county, and city level. What is their role? Is it wait and see what happens, be proactive? Just what their perceptions are. I think we really need to have somebody that can be influential in state politics seeing as we don't get any funding from the state, for this college to exist, we're gonna need some state funding. And it's gonna be a difficult job to get that, but we need a person that is willing and able to make that happen.
So just a quick question there. So does that mean that those funds are available? Do they need to go in, and this is just in general terms, and persuade legislators that, freeing up some funds for these initiatives would be wise? I mean, what does that look like historically, Wade?
We had trouble getting money when money was available. And this year, for example, money is not available. Budget is at a deficit, but I think it's more of a sales position on this is the economic impact we can have, and this is how we can increase not only taxable income at the state level, because our students are going to be able to make good wages and pay into the state coffers, and also be able to get the private sector to support an initiative to return our funding the way it was 7 or 8, 9 years ago. Right now, our entire funding is based on growth, taxes, and tuition.
Right.
And to me, that's not a successful model, because we're going to run into a wall when we get to the point where we can't or won't raise tuition and raise taxes, and there's no help from the state. And there's only 2 community colleges in Arizona that don't get funding from the state. So we've been excluded along with Maricopa County community colleges in receiving state assistance. That has to change.
Okay, thank you.
Can I broach a very tough
Yes.
situation here, I guess, or very, very tough comment that I think the board needs to know, going back to the comment that was made just a minute ago about the individual having some knowledge in working with boards and being able to work with boards. I think this is very important going forward. We are going to bring to the board a different type of candidate than what you may typically see or what you would typically see if you're running this search on your own. We are going to be, we'll run some advertisements, of course. We have to do that in higher education. However, through many years of doing this, we very seldom see really good, strong candidates coming for advertisements. Those are, for the most part, active job seekers who are looking at ads and who are running, a lot of times running from something instead of running to something. And you don't need a chancellor who's running away from something. There are exceptions, but for the most part, that's what we find as being the rule. We're going to be reaching out to individuals who are successful, happy for the most part, making major contributions to their organizations, and bringing those individuals in front of the search committee and then ultimately in front of the board. So there is a selling piece here that we cannot do. We can only sell these individuals up to a certain point, and then you're going to be the finalist of the board. You're going to be California, who said she received a call from someone who's on a board in a college in California that she knows, who called her and said, we were looking for universities whose boards were not doing it the right way, and had some dysfunction, so we could better structure our board in the way that we do things. And Pima's board is the example that the consultant that was working with us used as a dysfunctional board. So word is out there. Everyone said that you're working much better now and that there's been great improvement. However, these candidates are going to do their homework. They're going to go online. They may listen in on some meetings. So, we're going to need to present a united front to these individuals when they come in, which is one of the reasons we spend so much time up front, talking with you and the constituent groups on what we need here. But, keep in mind that there's selling to be done by you as you're talking with candidates. And if there are things that you as a group disagree on at this point in what you are looking for or what you need in your next chancellor, those are some things that we need to kind of hash out, or you need to hash out at this point in the process early on. So that doesn't come up as a red flag to candidates when they're interviewing with you later, if that makes sense. And I know that's a tough subject to broach, and we hated to bring that up, but we do know that that is going to be an issue. That's going to be a challenge for us when we go out to the market. We feel like we can overcome that challenge, but when they come in front of you, they need to see that united board. The other comment that was made from faculty and staff that I think is something you consider as well too is, in most colleges and universities, the board serves as kind of an oversight role. And then the chancellor serves as that administrative role. They're the ones that do the day-to-day. And as a comment was made earlier, they're bringing important information to you as the board for you to use to make good decisions and not wasting your time. We're going to find you that person who's going to be the one that's going to do that. But these individuals are also going to want, and they're going to ask the question, are we going to be able to do our jobs? Or is the board going to be there looking over our shoulder every step along the way? So give us your perspective on what we can communicate to candidates and kind of what you're expecting, what they can expect of working with you going forward.
When
Well,
you were, go ahead,
Go
Maria.
ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, wait.
Michael, when you were talking about, the board presenting a united front, I do think that is what we will be doing. I think right now we're all sort of telling you what's important to us as individuals, not necessarily that we've already discussed any of these things and we've already come to a consensus. But if the rest of the board doesn't feel comfortable with saying that we need somebody who's at least not against unions, I won't push that when our person comes forward, but obviously our college community will, right? Because we have a very strong union front in our college. So they will see that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And I think that in general, this whole board, if I may step out, we are all unified that we want a very productive, proactive chancellor who believes in shared governance, who believes in making students first, who believes in moving the college forward, both in workforce development and the transfer track. Everything that everybody has said, I think we all agree on all of those points.
Right.
The community involvement that Luis and Wade McLean talked about, we all feel that same way. So I think in general, we are unified in this. We all want to get the best chancellor so that she or he can continue a forward trajectory of the college and not take us backwards.
Speaking for myself, I think if I was coming into this situation as chancellor, I would want to hear that the board is receptive to sitting down with the new chancellor and delineating responsibilities. I'd like to hear what the chancellor believes is their role, what their parameters on decision-making is, and what the board needs to do to be supportive. And I think if I was applying for the job and I went back and started looking at recordings of the board meetings, what I would come away with is that we have administrators that have been attacked, and is the role of a board or a board member to attack during a board meeting or hold the chancellor accountable for the management of that administrator. And I think moving forward together that we could come up with a good plan, and I would want a chancellor that is good enough at board relations that they could help us, guide us, to come up with that kind of a situation.
Very good.
So Wade, thank you so much for those comments. That's exactly how I feel. I believe that maybe, in the past, when we questioned, and I was part of that questioning or, the leadership, it was because, as I have said before, that I didn't trust the administration. I did not trust the council we were getting, nor the chancellor. Now, moving forward, with all of us in agreement and trying to get the best person possible, and I believe that this board that we have now is a very constructive board. We respect each other. We talk out issues. There's still sometimes, when we may not agree, but we respect our, each other's opinions. And I think that when you're talking about true transparency and working relationships, that's everything. We're not robots, So I just think that it's, all that the other part is in the past, and we all want to move forward. And all of you guys, all of us have said and agree on what we want.
Good.
So, and everything's been stated. I'm done.
Thank you.
And
Scott, I think you had some questions that you wanted to ask of the group. Greg, were you going to say something?
I was just going to concur with what was said there. I mean, I honestly don't really know how to answer your question, to be totally honest with you. I mean, I do think that we've made a lot of progress as a board in terms of compared to the previous one about treating each other respectfully, as Maria said, and treating each other as peers. We also we're 5 different people, and we have fundamental disagreements about things sometimes, and that's not going to change. And so I think we can work through those disagreements respectfully, but I scratch my head a little when we use that idea of like a unified board. I mean, yeah, we're on the same page, like Teresa said, about a lot of those things, but those disagreements are not going to change, and the chancellor is going to have to be able to navigate that environment, good, bad, or indifferent, and help to kind of bridge and compromise and broker some of that with us. And so I do think they need to come in eyes wide open. And the other part that is just the reality of the timeline that we're in is, there's, and I'm sure anyone worth their salt for this would know just by looking at it, there are 3 seats on this board up for re-election shortly after this chancellor is going to be hired. And so what that future board looks like is a question mark that none of us can answer in terms of what the results. I certainly hope will sustain the momentum and the progress that we've made, but I think there is a reality there that there's an unknown about, what's going to happen, because we're in this unusual situation where, in no other election would we have a majority of this board, be up for re-election, but now we are because of the special election and then the two seats in their regular terms. So there's some ambiguity there that people are just going to have to live with because there's no way around it.
Gotcha. All right, Scott, did you have some questions I think that you wanted to ask of the group? I'm just trying to watch our time here to make sure we're not going to run out.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And frankly, through the discussions, a number of them have been answered. So thank you all for that. So one of the challenges in any search is generating curiosity. That's sort of the first step, right? Relative to accessing the candidate base. You've got to get them curious about the opportunity. And then that morphs and evolves and becomes more significant throughout the entire process. What, from your perspective, could we share with candidates if they are sort of a little tepid about the opportunity? And we don't expect people to be all juiced and rabid about it out of the chute. What could we tell them that would push them over the edge to participate if we thought they were a really outstanding candidate that could move the needle at Pima? What could we tell them?
I have one suggestion, that is that historically this community has overwhelmingly supported this college. That the self-talk in the community is positive. You go in any organization this large and you're gonna have detractors. But if you subtract the detractors, that it's a good place to work. The students are well prepared to move into either an occupation or a university. And that if you ask the chamber or the Southern Arizona Leadership Group, what they perceive about this college is positive. So there's an opportunity to be a champion here. And this community will follow a strong leader that they believe has the best interest of this community in mind. So I see it as a real win-win for somebody that wants to influence the progress of the community college, and understanding that they'll get the benefit of the doubt from day one from the community, and they have a real opportunity to be extremely successful.
Very good. Thank you, Wade.
Good.
Yeah, I would echo that too. I mean, I think there, in terms of our biggest selling points, I mean, for the college itself, I would say, you know, there's a tremendous opportunity here to really move the needle in significant ways in this community. You know, Maria mentioned earlier, you know, we're a community with a high poverty rate. I think it's what, like 13, 14, 15%, something like that. So the potential for the college, well, we are now, but the potential to continue to grow and strengthen and expand the college's role in transforming this community in really meaningful ways. I think there's huge potential here for somebody that really wants to make an impact in what they're doing and be able to see that over time. I think I would hope that would be tremendously exciting for somebody who, you know, really wants to get into it and do the work. And then the other piece too, I think there are some really uniquely interesting things about Tucson. You know, it's a large community, and you know, we're over 1 million people in terms of our overall area, but it's not so large that, you know, you can't kind of wrap your arms around it. And it's also a community that has a strong sense of itself and its geographic identity, that there's a lot of pride from being here, being from here, being part of this community that I don't see in other areas. And so it's almost a mixture of some of the benefits of being in larger urban areas with some of the identity and benefits and sense of community that you find in smaller rural communities. And we're able to offer all of those things. So I think it's a place where somebody could really be part of a really interesting, dynamic, vibrant community that has a unique identity, and at the same time have opportunities to make some tremendous professional impact in terms of where they can take the college. And I hope that would be exciting.
Thank you,
And
Greg.
maybe we can throw in season tickets to the University of Arizona men's basketball as an enticement.
You know, so I want to apply for the job because I love what both of you have said, except for the tickets. I could take and leave those. The Southern Arizona, just as another selling point, it is the most beautiful place on earth. We have everything from deserts all the way up to evergreen forests within 35 minutes of where we live. Prior chancellors, not the most recent one, but prior chancellors, I would go hiking with them, and we'd, you know, go hiking in the Catalinas or the Rincons. And you know, there's so much opportunity for someone who is interested in activities to do in Tucson, as far as getting out, meeting neighbors, meeting communities, meeting all the different ethnic groups we have in town. You know, there's all of the entertainment that's available: concerts, opera, symphony, all sorts of sporting events. Phoenix, I don't know why anybody would want to spend too much time up there, but they have everything that we don't have, right? And so it's really an amazing place to live. It's an amazing place to grow. Even though our schools have had K through 12 have had some, you know, detractors, they do a pretty darn good job. And there are some amazing districts. So if the chancellor, if she or he has kids, you know, the schools, there are some really, really great schools in Tucson. And so anyway, I think if you just when Wade mentioned the detractors in the community, even though they're detractors of the college, even though they bitch and complain about us, they still support us. So, it's not like you're working against anybody. Our overrides have passed overwhelmingly for K through 20 education. So the community, they don't mind spending their tax dollars. They don't complain about educational taxes. And so that's another great thing.
Thanks, Teresa. That's good. Maria, any thoughts?
No, it's already been said. They do a better job at explaining it than I do. So,
Luis, any thoughts from you?
is he still here?
Yeah, I'm still here. Well, it was pretty much said. One of the things I just want to share is that Tucson is very unique itself. I'm originally from the Phoenix area, so I'm partial to Phoenix as well too. But as mentioned a while ago, it is a unique. It's a unique place. It's a slower, in my experience, has a slower motion in reference to the rat race up there. But more important is that right now Tucson area is something that can be built upon with a lot of the businesses that we have around here, especially with Pima College. I think and I've said it before, nothing new, we can always do better. But it takes a community, it takes a new leadership that's going to be coming in to do better, but also to take us up to that second level as well too. One of the things that I personally, as was been mentioned in that, like every other day or every other meeting, it's that the state funding. Who better yet to really provide the advocacy, the voice, the push to those funds to be returned back, talking to the people out there. It's not only the governing, but it has to be the community. That's it.
Thank you.
And who else do we have? Is it Marcos and Glenn? If I can see the screen correctly. Do y'all have anything to add?
They're just our IT.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure we give everybody a chance here. So,
Michael, I think the committee's been the group today has been very forthcoming with their observations and suggestions. So they kind of covered most of my questions, which is wonderful.
yeah. What have we not talked about that you feel like are going to be the greatest challenges of this person coming in right away? I mean, you've given us quite a few, but is there anything that we've not talked about that you feel like would be a challenge to this individual coming in?
I don't think any of us have brought up the HLC specifically, but I do think that that's something that is on the radar because, we're in our reaccreditation year and it's going to be sort of, well, no, I shouldn't even say midstream. I don't know at what point, but maybe towards the end of what our internal preparations are, and then going into the actual site visits and stuff at the end of this calendar year. So that's another sort of point of ambiguity that the person coming in, is going to probably start. Well, I don't know how much influence they can have over a lot of that, but that's a variable, I guess, that they're going to have to deal with. But also, we don't have the we've had some issues with our accreditation in the past, which I hope we don't have any this time. I'm hopeful. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do think that is a thing that the new chancellor needs to come in eyes wide open about. I mean, I hope we get great news, but we'll see.
Well, these bodies, as you know, rarely roll through without some recommendations, right? I mean, there's going to be something, I'm sure.
Job security. I think the other thing, so some of the challenges I think is, Pima is in a state of change in some areas. We're realigning our online education department. The finances are always, questionable because once again, we don't have an increasing revenue. We have a static revenue, but of course, everything else is going up, cost of items and inflation, et cetera. So, there are some challenges. I don't want to say that they're, negatives, because I think anytime someone has a creative, inquisitive type of mind, there are solutions to every challenge we have out there. And so hopefully, the candidates don't look at those things as negatives. They look at them as opportunities for growth. And so, that whole growth mindset is so darn important anytime in education, and especially when things are the list of challenges are quite a few. HLC getting reaccredited, increasing enrollment, funding, salary increases, all of those things, to me, just seems like a normal part of a job for anybody who's going to be in this kind of position. So I hopefully our candidates have that sort of outlook also.
You get us a candidate that's open, honest, collaborative, caring, nurturing, and a visionary, and they will be successful.
And strong. They have to be strong. Yeah. Not strong as authoritarian, but strong as, making sure the college's needs are being met and that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, holding people accountable.
Yeah. We heard thickness of your outer dermal layer, thick skin to be required. Was that several times? There was a bit of a motif there. Is that true? What do you think about that?
I think that's, you're talking about a chancellor?
Yes.
I think that's more of being non-reactionary.
Okay.
Willing and able to take a shot and use it as in analytical decision-making as opposed to emotional decision-making.
Yeah, and I agree with what Wade said. And I do think that there is a reality of this community that it is maybe somewhat activist in nature, just sort of in general. And so I do think that you have some people who do their activism through like public blame and shame as opposed to collaboratively trying to work together. And so there's always going to be some part of it, and a lot of times it might be well intentioned, but like you do have to be able to kind of roll with it, because it will happen. It's just the nature of this community.
Michael and Scott, when you guys were talking to the original committee that was choosing the hiring firm, I did hear something that you guys said about diversity in your approach, and I just thought about this, but like there are those organizations, NALEO, the different organizations of leadership in higher education that focus on the minority population, the administrators that are minorities. Are you going to be advertising in their brochures, things like that also?
Yeah, we typically do the Chronicle, and we use their diversity distribution, which goes to about 120 plus organizations, diversity. Many of those will pull that ad and put it on their websites. Others will just simply distribute the ad to their members. We also use diverse issues in higher education. In your particular case, being a Hispanic serving institution, we will likely, there's a Hispanic leadership in higher education group that we have used from time to time, and we are certainly open to placing it anywhere that you want us to.
I mean, I just think it's really important that we make sure that those people from diverse backgrounds know of this opportunity. I mean, It's not a requirement to hire a Hispanic person or anything like that. But we just want to make sure that they have, access to the announcement. So they're able to make their own application if they want to.
Yeah, and you will have a diverse slate of candidates to review. Our internal policy is that we bring forth a diverse slate of candidates 100% of the time. And, we have done that over the past 3 years. And for those of you that were not involved in that discussion in selecting firms, about 68% of our placements are women and people of color right now for president and chancellor level positions. So those are numbers that we're very proud of. I think the average right now for search firms nationally is about 65%. So, we do make a very big effort to reach out to individuals of diversity. So if there are places specifically that you would like us to advertise, if you would shoot me an email on those, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will make sure that we include those.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I tell you what, I will put my email address here in the chat if you want to have that.
And maybe Tina, since we're in this sort of group thing, I don't really have access to the chat right now. Will you just forward that those emails to the board members?
There it is.
Thank you.
Hey, Tina, it's nice to have an HR director with a face.
Shame on you.
You're welcome.
If we can brag on her, she is fabulous. If you are not a client, I swear we would try to steal her from you, but she has been great through this process. She is on top of everything.
Hey, Tina, after last night's board meeting, I got 2 different emails from people who weren't at the meeting but listened to it. And they told me that I was spot on in thanking you for stepping up, because they said that you have been responsive and the most efficient HR person, that they've been here for 5 or 6 years, one of them said, and you have been so efficient every time that they've needed to contact you. So anyway, thank you again.
So use your expertise, put together a training session for the governing board.
Oh, you just tell me what you want and need. I'll come out and do some training. But yeah, so as I said, organization is my game, and I will make sure that I use that talent to help you all out.
All right.
And Tina may have something already on this to use for the board, but we do offer, we teach our search committees how to do competency-based and behavioral-based interviewing, and we use that through our process in looking at how past behaviors predict future performance. We also frequently will do a brief training on that with our board when they're looking at making decisions, just depending on how comfortable you feel like that your interview expertise may be. And, Tina, that's certainly something that we are open to doing if that will assist in the process as well, too.
Yeah, I think, the board can let me know if they're interested in that. In my prior work and working with career services at the University of Arizona, as we talked about, Michael, I know some of those techniques. So if the board wants that, we can either co-do it,
Right.
or
Yeah.
they can say, no, we just want Michael, whatever you all are looking for. So you'll just have to let me know as we get closer to that process. And I didn't finish saying, Teresa, thank you for sharing those compliments. It's one of my New Year's resolutions to make sure that I accept compliments. So.
Okay, well, thank you. Do we have anything else we needed to talk about?
I think we have covered it from our perspective. Is there anything as a group that we've not asked you about, or that you've not told us about, that you feel like we need to know? All right. We thank you very much for your time. And you've given us some very valuable feedback. It is comforting to know that what you've given us fits very much in line with what we heard from the constituent groups. So there doesn't seem to be any roadblocks there that we or you are going to face going through the process. And that's great. that's always good to know going into it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
We'll
Thank you
adjourn this
all.
meeting then. Adjourning. Thank
Have a
you.
great